The message came at midnight. Just 3 words that shattered everything I believed in. We no longer trust you. My hands trembled as I stared at the glowing screen, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. It was from my parents' number, but I knew those weren't their words. Not truly. I had just come home from a double shift at the hospital, exhausted but proud, because I'd finally paid off the last bit of my student loan. And yet instead of peace, I was being accused of something I didn't even understand. I rushed to call my mom, but the call went straight to voicemail. My sister Lila had probably told them something. She always had a way of twisting stories in her favor. Ever since we were kids, she had been the golden one, the one with the perfect hair, perfect grades, perfect smile. I was the quiet one, the one who stayed behind to fix her messes while she charmed everyone. But this felt different. This felt final. The next morning, when I drove to my parents' house, the gate was locked. My father, who used to wait for me every Sunday morning with tea, wouldn't even look at me. "We know what you did, Emma," he said coldly. "Don't ever come here again." I begged him to explain, but he turned his back and walked away. I felt like the ground beneath me had vanished. My family had cut me off completely, and I didn't even know why. Lila wouldn't answer my calls either. Days turned into weeks, and I kept replaying every conversation, every small argument, every little thing I might have done wrong. Until one afternoon, a coworker showed me a post online, a luxury car, a diamond necklace, and a caption that said, "Hard work pays off." It was Lila's account. And the necklace? I recognized it immediately. It was my mother's one that she had claimed went missing 2 months ago, the same time my parents' business suddenly started facing financial issues. My stomach sank. Something wasn't right, and for the first time, I realized maybe this wasn't just a misunderstanding. Maybe someone had framed me, and that someone might be my own sister. I couldn't sleep that night, every thought twisting into a nightmare. I kept seeing Lila's smile, that confident, camera-ready grin, and I wondered how much of it had always been fake. The next morning, I decided I wasn't going to sit and cry anymore. I drove to her apartment, the one downtown with the perfect view and the marble staircase she bragged about. She opened the door in a silk robe, her hair in perfect waves, like nothing had happened. "Emma," she said, surprised but not guilty. "What are you doing here?" I held up my phone with her post on the screen. "Where did you get Mom's necklace?" Her expression didn't change, but her eyes flickered for half a second. "You're imagining things," she said coolly, moving aside to let me in. "You've always been dramatic." Her place looked like something out of a magazine. New furniture, designer bags, and a faint smell of champagne in the air. I couldn't help but notice a stack of documents on her coffee table, stamped with my name on one of the pages. My chest tightened. "What's that?" I asked. She quickly covered the papers with a cushion and smiled. "Old hospital stuff, nothing serious." But her tone was off, too casual, too smooth. I took a step closer, and she stepped in front of me. "Lila, what did you tell Mom and Dad?" I demanded. She crossed her arms, her lips curling into a smile I didn't recognize. "That you took money from them, that you forged their signatures, that you were using them to pay your debts." My mouth fell open. "That's insane. You know that's not true." But she only shrugged. "They believed me. They always do." My hands were shaking. "Why would you do that to me?" I whispered. Her eyes turned cold. "Because you've always had their sympathy, Emma. Always the victim. Always the one they protect." For once, I wanted to see what it felt like to be the good one. My heart broke right there in that shining apartment full of stolen luxury. I backed away slowly, realizing I was standing face to face with someone I didn't know anymore, someone who had just destroyed my life and smiled while doing it. I stumbled out of her apartment in a daze, my heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. The city lights blurred around me. The sounds of car horns and laughter felt distant, unreal, like I was moving through a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel, tears streaming down my face as her words echoed in my head. They believed me. They always do. That sentence cut deeper than any knife. I wanted to scream, to run back and demand she fix everything, but I knew it wouldn't matter. Lila had already spun her web, and my parents were caught in it. I spent the next few days trying to gather any proof of my innocence. I checked my bank accounts, my email, my hospital records, anything she could have used. And that's when I noticed strange transactions linked to my name. Huge sums of money transferred to offshore accounts I'd never heard of. My ID, my signature, even my hospital credentials had been used. Someone had been pretending to be me. My stomach turned cold. It had to be Lila. She knew enough about my work and personal details to pull this off. I went to the bank to explain, but they looked at me like I was lying. The signatures match perfectly, the manager said, sliding the papers across the desk. I stared at my forged signature, every curve, every loop eerily accurate. My hand shook as I whispered, "She copied me." That evening, I went back to my apartment only to find a police notice stuck to my door. "You are required for questioning in connection with financial fraud." My world collapsed in an instant. My coworkers began to whisper behind my back, and even my supervisor suspended me until things were cleared up. I had no one left to turn to. The one person I'd always trusted, my family, was gone, and the person who betrayed me was walking free, probably laughing at my downfall. But somewhere deep inside me, a spark of determination flickered. If she thought I would break that easily, she didn't know me at all. I was going to prove my innocence, even if it meant exposing every dark secret my sister had buried. The next morning, I sat on my kitchen floor surrounded by piles of papers, bills, and my laptop open with dozens of tabs. My head throbbed from lack of sleep, but I couldn't stop digging. Every transfer, every document connected to my name, had one thing in common: a signature from a company called LJ Consulting. I didn't recognize it, but when I searched the address, my blood ran cold. It was registered under my sister's initials, Lila Jameson. My hands went numb as I scrolled through page after page of financial records, each showing deposits totaling over $7 million. My sister hadn't just stolen from our parents. She had built an entire empire of lies using my identity. I knew I couldn't go to my parents yet. They would never believe me without proof. So I called an old friend, Daniel, who worked in cybersecurity. "Emma, are you in some kind of trouble?" he asked when he heard my trembling voice. "I just need your help," I said. "Someone's been using my information for fraud." He agreed to meet me at a cafe that evening. I arrived early, nervous and paranoid, glancing over my shoulder at every passing face. When Daniel arrived, I handed him my laptop. He worked silently for half an hour, his brow furrowed. Then he looked up slowly. "Emma, this isn't just someone using your name. These transactions are tied to multiple shell companies, all looping back to one central account." "Whose?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Your sister's," he said. "And Emma, she used your hospital credentials to access private patient billing systems. That's how she laundered the money." My mouth went dry. I felt dizzy. "That's impossible. She's not even in the medical field." Daniel nodded grimly. "She didn't need to be. She had everything she needed from you, your login details, your license number. She's been careful. But if I trace it back far enough, I can prove it wasn't you." I felt tears burn my eyes, half relief, half horror. "Can you do it?" He nodded. "It'll take time, but yes." For the first time in weeks, I felt a small flicker of hope. Lila might have stolen my name, my family, and my reputation, but she wasn't going to steal my truth. For the next several nights, Daniel and I worked in secret. My apartment became a war room of glowing screens, printed files, and empty coffee cups. Every new discovery felt like peeling away another layer of the lie my sister had built. We traced offshore accounts, fake invoices, and patient data thefts, all leading back to her. Daniel even found emails she'd sent under my name to the hospital's finance department, requesting wire transfers. The level of planning was terrifying. She must have been setting this up for months, Daniel muttered one night, his eyes fixed on the screen. Maybe even years. I sank into my chair, clutching my head. She's been planning my destruction all this time. My voice broke as the memories came flooding back, Leela always watching me, always asking about my work, pretending to care. Now I realized she'd been gathering information the whole time. One evening, while Daniel was running a deep trace, I received another message from my parents. "Stop lying, Emma, the police came. We know what you've done." I felt my throat tighten. Lila had gone to the police first, twisting the story to her advantage. I was officially a suspect. My career, my license, everything was on the line. "We have to move fast," Daniel said, typing furiously. "If she's filed a report, you'll need to show evidence that points back to her before they freeze your accounts." My pulse quickened as I watched him uncover a hidden server linked to Lila's apartment IP address. "She stored backup data on her personal network," he explained. "If we can extract it, it'll prove she's the one behind all this." I hesitated. "That means breaking into her system, doesn't it?" Daniel nodded. "Technically, yes. But if we don't, she wins." I swallowed hard, staring at the photo of my parents on my desk, the same parents who now believed I was a criminal. "Do it," I whispered. Hours passed before Daniel finally leaned back, a triumphant look on his face. "Got it," he said, turning the screen toward me. There, in black and white, were records of every forged document, every fake transfer, every stolen dollar, all signed not by me, but by Lila Jameson. I covered my mouth in shock. For the first time since that terrible message, I felt something stronger than fear. Justice was finally within reach. The next morning, I printed out every file, every screenshot, and every record Daniel had uncovered. My hands were trembling as I packed the evidence into a folder, knowing this could either save me or destroy me completely. I didn't sleep, didn't eat. I just kept thinking of the moment I'd walk into the police station and tell them the truth. But when I arrived, the officer at the front desk looked up sharply. "Emma Carter?" I nodded nervously. "You're under investigation for large-scale financial fraud. You're advised to stay available for questioning." My knees almost buckled, but I forced myself to speak. "I have proof. I didn't do it. My sister did." He frowned, skeptical. "Your sister?" "Yes," I said quickly, handing him the folder. "Everything is in there. She used my identity, my credentials. She's been laundering money for months." He took the papers, flipping through them briefly, then called for a senior officer. A few tense minutes later, I was led into a small interrogation room, where a woman in a dark suit sat across from me. "Ms. Carter, we've received multiple complaints filed by your sister. She claims you've been harassing her." My heart dropped. "That's not true. Please, look at the documents. She's framing me." The officer studied me silently, then opened the folder. Her expression shifted as she scanned the pages. "Where did you get this?" "A friend traced the data. Everything leads back to her." She didn't speak for several moments, then finally said, "If what you're saying is true, we'll verify it. But until then, don't contact her or your family." I nodded weakly, my chest tightening with dread. As I walked out of the station, I felt like I was walking a thin line between freedom and ruin. That evening, Daniel called. "They've started the trace," he said. "If they confirm her system logs, she's done for." I wanted to believe him, but fear still gnawed at me. What if Lila found out? What if she erased everything before the police could act? My worst fears came true 2 nights later when I got home and found my front door slightly open. I froze. My apartment was dark, but inside I could hear something, a soft, familiar voice whispering. When I turned on the light, my blood ran cold. Lila was standing there, holding my laptop, smiling like she'd been expecting me. For a moment, I couldn't move. My heart stopped as Lila's smirk deepened. "You shouldn't have done that, Emma," she said softly. tapping my laptop with her manicured finger. Going to the police? That was a mistake. I tried to steady my breathing, my voice shaking. Get out of my house, Lila. She laughed, the sound sharp and mocking. Oh, sweet sister, you think they'll believe you? They already think you're desperate, and now you've made yourself look guilty. I took a cautious step closer, trying to see what she was doing. What are you planning? Her eyes gleamed with something cold and cruel. I'm making sure there's no trace left. You really thought your little hacker friend could outsmart me? My stomach clenched as she turned the laptop screen toward me. Files were vanishing one by one. She was deleting everything. I lunged forward, but she stepped back, yanking out the power cord. You've always been naive, Emma, she sneered. Always believing people see you as innocent. But I'm the one they trust. I'm the one they love. Something inside me snapped. All the pain, the betrayal, the sleepless nights boiled over, and before I could stop myself, I grabbed her wrist. You stole my life, I shouted, tears spilling down my cheeks. She stared at me, her expression almost amused. Maybe you should have guarded it better. For a second, we stood there frozen. Two sisters who had once shared everything, now divided by greed and hate. Then she shoved me hard, sending me crashing into the table. Pain shot through my arm. But before I could react, she grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. You'll regret this, Emma, she said coldly. When they come for you, don't say I didn't warn you. The door slammed shut behind her. My breathing came in ragged gasps as I crawled to my laptop, praying Daniel had backed up the files. My hands trembled as I opened my phone and called him. She was here, I whispered, still shaking. She deleted everything. There was a pause on the other end before he said quietly, Not everything. I made a hidden copy on an encrypted drive. She can't touch it. Relief and terror crashed through me all at once. Then it's time, I said. We end this tonight. That night, the rain poured endlessly, drumming against my windows like a warning. I met Daniel in his car near Lila's apartment complex. My heart pounded so hard it hurt, but there was no turning back. Are you sure about this? Daniel asked, glancing at me through the darkness. Once we send this to the authorities, there's no undoing it. I nodded, my voice barely steady. She's already taken everything from me. I'm not letting her destroy anyone else. Daniel connected his laptop to the encrypted drive, his fingers flying across the keys. I've compiled every transaction, every document, and linked them to her accounts. It's airtight, but we need one last thing, a confirmation of her active involvement. How? I asked. He looked at me carefully. A recording. If she admits anything, even a hint, that's enough. My pulse quickened. The thought of facing her again terrified me, but deep down I knew it had to be done. I texted her, pretending to surrender. You win, let's talk. She replied within minutes. Finally. My place, 10 minutes. As I stood at her door again, drenched from the rain, I hid the small recorder Daniel had given me inside my jacket pocket. Lila opened the door, looking smug and unbothered, her glass of wine glinting under the soft lights. You came to apologize? She said, raising an eyebrow. I forced a bitter smile. Something like that. I stepped inside, scanning the room for any sign of the stolen documents. But everything looked perfect, untouched. You destroyed everything, I said slowly, testing her. She laughed lightly, swirling her wine. Of course I did. You really thought you could ruin me? Please, Emma, I'm smarter than that. I clenched my fists, keeping my voice calm. So you admit it? That you took the money, used my name? She tilted her head, her eyes glinting with pride. Admit it, why not? You could never handle success. I just took what should have been mine. My chest tightened, every word searing like fire, but I kept her talking until the recorder beeped softly, confirming it had captured her confession. You'll never prove it, she added smugly. I smiled faintly for the first time. You already did, I whispered, turning toward the door as she frowned in confusion. She had no idea her empire of lies was about to crumble. I walked out of Lila's apartment with my heart pounding and rain soaking through my jacket. But this time, I didn't feel broken. I felt powerful. The recording was still running in my pocket, capturing every arrogant word she had said. Daniel was waiting in the car, his eyes searching mine as I got in. "Did you get it?" he asked quickly. I nodded, pulling out the device. She admitted everything. Every single thing. He exhaled, almost in disbelief. "Then this is over." We drove straight to the police station, the streets glistening under the city lights, my reflection flickering in the car window. I thought about my parents, about all the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering why they didn't believe me. Soon they would know the truth. Inside the station, I handed over the recorder, the files, and Daniel's digital report to the same officer who had questioned me before. She listened to a few seconds of Lila's confession and looked up at me, her expression unreadable. "We'll verify this immediately," she said. The next 48 hours were agony. Every ring of my phone made me jump. Then on the third evening I got the call. "Ms. Carter," the officer said, "we've completed the investigation. The evidence is clear. Your sister is responsible for the fraud. We've issued a warrant for her arrest." I froze, unable to speak. "You're free of all charges. We're deeply sorry for the misunderstanding." When I hung up, I burst into tears, the kind that come when you've carried too much for too long. It was over. The next morning, the news broke everywhere. Local woman arrested in $7 million fraud scheme. I watched from my couch as they showed footage of Lila being led into a police car, her once perfect smile replaced with fury and disbelief. My phone buzzed again, this time it was my mother. I hesitated before answering. "Emma," she said, her voice trembling, "we're so sorry. We didn't know. She told us so many lies." I didn't respond at first. I just listened to her cry on the other end. "Please come home," she whispered. My eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't sure I could go back, not yet. I'd lost too much to return to the same world so easily. Some scars don't fade just because the truth does. Weeks passed, and the world slowly began to quiet down. The reporters stopped calling, the whispers at work faded, and the storm that had once drowned my life finally began to clear. My parents came to see me one afternoon, their faces pale and aged from guilt. My mother held my hands tightly, tears glistening in her eyes. "We should have trusted you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We failed you, Emma." My father stood behind her, silent but broken, his eyes heavy with regret. For a long moment I couldn't speak. I had imagined this reunion 1,000 times, but now that it was happening, I didn't feel anger, I just felt tired. "You believed what you needed to," I said quietly. "Lila was good at lying." My father finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "She's being charged with multiple counts of fraud. They found everything in her accounts." I nodded, the truth still surreal even after everything. "She'll face what she's done," I said, though part of me still ached for the sister I used to know, the one who laughed with me in the backyard, who shared secrets under the blankets at night before life turned her cold. After they left, I sat by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and crimson. It felt symbolic, somehow an ending and a beginning. Daniel called later that evening, asking how I was holding up. "I'm okay," I said softly. "Better than before." He chuckled lightly. "You were stronger than anyone I've ever met, Emma. You didn't just survive, you fought back." His words stayed with me long after the call ended. For so long I thought being quiet and kind was my weakness, but now I knew it was my strength. I had lost everything: my family's trust, my job, my peace, and yet I rebuilt it piece by piece. The scars Lila left on my life would never fully disappear, but they became reminders of what I'd overcome. I looked at my reflection in the window, rain still glistening on the glass, and whispered to myself, they said they no longer trusted me, but I learned to trust myself instead. And for the first time in months, I smiled not because I'd won, but because I'd finally found peace in the truth.